Hello guys, support Sanders the Great by subscribing and getting us to 1,000 subscribers. We truly appreciate the support. Joint practice flared into total psychological warfare today when a sidelined, unhelmeted CJ Gardner-Johnson hijacked the field to mercilessly humiliate rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders, crowning him the Checkdown King in front of every camera in Ohio. But what began as a ruthless public execution took a shocking whiplash turn the moment the practice whistles blew, exposing a hidden dynamic that changes everything we thought we knew about this brutal NFL trial by fire. The mid-August heat beat down on the Berea practice fields like a heavyweight canvas, heavy with humidity and suffocating tension. Joint practice sessions are built on an unspoken, volatile promise. Bring two different NFL rosters together in the dead of summer, strap shoulder pads onto 100 hyper-competitive men, and watch the inevitable combustion unfold. Everyone expected fireworks between the starting units, but nobody predicted that the fuse would be lit by a man wearing street clothes and a scowl. Buffalo Bills star safety CJ Gardner-Johnson was supposed to be a spectator, sidelined by an agonizing calf injury that forced him out of full contact drills. Yet, as the Cleveland Browns offense broke their huddle for the first 11-on-11 sequence, it became violently clear that Gardner-Johnson had no intention of fading into the background. He paced the Bills' sideline like a caged predator, eyes locked onto the white jersey carrying the number 2, the most talked about, scrutinized rookie quarterback in recent football history, Shedeur Sanders. Gardner-Johnson is notorious throughout the league as a master of the dark arts of mental disruption. He does not just talk trash, he dissects an opponent's soul, finding the precise nerve ending that hurts the most and stomping on it continuously until the target breaks. From the very first snap, Gardner-Johnson began his targeted assault. As Shedeur took a 3-step drop, scanned the secondary, and quickly dumped a short screen pass to his running back for a meager 3-yard gain, Gardner-Johnson exploded into laughter that cut straight through the roaring crowd. He clapped his hands rhythmically, stepping right up to the white boundary paint, shouting with a razor-sharp, mocking cadence that resonated across the entire complex. He dubbed the rookie the Checkdown King, bellowing the title again and again, ensuring every offensive lineman, receiver, and camera crew within 50 yards felt the full weight of the insult. The psychological warfare was calculated, relentless, and theatrical. Whenever Shedeur pulled the ball down under pressure instead of letting it fly downfield, Gardner-Johnson was right there, mocking the young passer's rhythm. He did not stop at verbal disrespect. He brought visual comedy to the execution. After Shedeur tucked the ball away for a conservative scramble out of bounds, Gardner-Johnson stood mere feet away, slowly and exaggeratedly raising his left wrist to mimic Shedeur's world-famous watch flex celebration, the iconic posture that had swept through college football and pop culture over the past 2 years. Gardner-Johnson shook his arm back and forth, pointing at an imaginary diamond-encrusted timepiece, howling with sarcastic delight as he reminded the rookie that the bright lights of commercial fame meant absolutely nothing once you step foot between the white lines of an NFL gridiron. The scene was a masterclass in sideline instigation. Shedeur Sanders was being forced to digest an elite defensive veteran's ruthless psychological assault without even having the opportunity to hit him back physically. Joint practices are usually defined by violent collisions, late hits, and bench-clearing brawls over petty extracurricular shoves, but this was different. This was purely mental torture executed by a player whose helmet was resting on a cooling bench, proving that words and body language could inflict far more damage than a textbook tackle. Every time Shedeur returned to the huddle, Gardner-Johnson's voice trailed him, an echo of pure, unfiltered disrespect that hung in the thick summer air. The rookie attempted to adjust his chin strap, keep his eyes straight ahead, and act completely unfazed, but the subtle clenching of his jaw betrayed the reality of the situation. The sideline predator had successfully hijacked the entire session, transforming a routine preseason installation script into a gladiatorial arena where a rookie's composure was being tested, stretched, and tortured to its absolute limit. Strip away the dramatic noise and high-octane spectacle of the joint session, and the tape reveals a brutal mathematical reality. CJ Gardner-Johnson's trash talk exposed the single most lethal vulnerability in Shedeur Sanders' evaluation portfolio. During the intensive 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 team periods, the contrast between elite processing speed and hesitation was laid bare under the blazing August sun. Shedeur's stat line looked cosmetically clean on paper, completing a high percentage of his attempts with 0 turnovers across 3 primary team series, but the underlying tape painted a troubling picture of hyper-conservative game management. Time after time, as the Bills' zone coverage shell morphed post-snap, Shedeur bypassed deeper, dynamic passing windows along the intermediate seam, opting instead to check the ball down to flat routes, check-release running backs and 2-yard hitch concepts. The offense operated in a rigid horizontal rhythm, constantly settling for short gains that kept the defense comfortably driving forward rather than tracking backward. Gardner-Johnson's Checkdown King moniker was not a random insult. It was a surgical attack on the defining narrative that delayed Shedeur's NFL transition. Scouts, executives, and rival defensive coordinators have long debated whether Shedeur's high college completion percentage was a testament to surgical accuracy or a byproduct of an overwhelming unwillingness to throw into tight, contested windows downfield. When faced with complex disguising coverages, Shedeur's internal clock tends to hitch, leading him to hold the football half a second too long before taking the safest possible bailout option. In the NFL, where intermediate windows open and snap shut in a fraction of a second, checking down on second and long is essentially a victory for the defense. CJGJ saw that hesitancy, recognized the psychological footprint of a passer afraid to make a costly mistake, and amplified it so every coach on the sideline couldn't miss it. The glaring nature of Shedeur's conservative play was made starkly obvious by contrasting it with Deshaun Watson's reps during the exact same practice structure. Where Shedeur hovered in a state of cautious hesitation, Watson played with aggressive vertical intent. Watson consistently ripped back shoulder throws into tight cover 2 holes, tested Buffalo's boundary cornerbacks down the sideline, and accepted the calculated risks required to stretch a modern NFL defense to its breaking point. Watson's willingness to push the ball downfield forced the Bills' safeties to back off the line of scrimmage, opening up vital running lanes and giving the entire offense an explosive, dangerous identity. In sharp contrast, when Shedeur directed the second unit offense, the secondary simply pinched forward, squatting on every short route because they did not fear the deep threat. Gardner-Johnson seized on this stark stylistic divide, relentlessly barking at Shedeur that he was playing scared money while Watson was playing winning football. By the end of the session, the scouting narrative was no longer a silent talking point in front office film rooms. It was an open, blaring siren on the field. Gardner-Johnson had successfully stripped away the hype, forcing the entire football world to confront the burning question of whether Shedeur Sanders possesses the courage to attack deep windows or if he is destined to remain a game manager trapped in a superstar's shadow. The echo of CJ Gardner-Johnson's relentless high-decibel taunts was still reverberating off the facility walls when the final practice horn blared, signaling the end of the brutal joint session. Reporters, media crews, and content creators flooded the sideline perimeter, bracing for the inevitable fallout of a classic training camp confrontation. Then came the plot twist that shattered the entire narrative, stepping directly in front of the lens of well-off media. The massive digital platform run by Deshaun Sanders Jr., Shedeur's older brother, Gardner-Johnson, did not double down on the disrespect or offer a cold shoulder. Instead, the fierce defensive back flashed a wide, relaxed grin, wrapped an arm around the camera crew, and completely flipped the script in front of thousands of live viewers. The ruthless villain instantly transformed into an affectionate older brother. Speaking straight into the camera, CJGJ discarded the Checkdown King persona and offered a profound statement of admiration. "Listen, I've been rocking with brother since I was yay high," Gardner-Johnson declared, holding his hand low to the ground to emphasize their shared history. "I'm glad to see Shedeur in this league. It's a real full circle moment for brother." In a single breath, the volcanic hostility that had dominated the 2-hour practice session vanished into thin air. The harsh taunts, the mocking watch flexing, and the surgical attacks on Shedeur's read progressions were revealed to be something far more complex than simple malice. It was classic, tough love NFL initiation, delivered by a veteran who understood the massive target placed on the young quarterback's back. This sudden post-practice revelation creates a fascinating psychological dilemma that leaves football analysts completely divided. Was Gardner-Johnson's affectionate pivot an authentic expression of lifelong brotherhood, or was it a calculated PR maneuver designed to soften the blow after realizing his harsh trash talk was caught on every sports network's camera? In the modern NFL, where media narratives can spiral out of control within minutes, the boundary between real hostility and performance art is constantly blurred. By delivering a ruthless beatdown on the field and then offering unconditional support on Deshaun Jr.'s camera, CJGJ handed Shedeur the ultimate trial by fire, a brutal welcome to the league that forced the rookie to endure maximum pressure under the spotlight, proving that in the pros, psychological warfare and professional respect are often two sides of the exact same coin. The tremors from Gardner-Johnson's explosive sideline antics spread far beyond the practice boundary, shaking the very foundation of the Cleveland Browns locker room. Inside the post-practice press facility, head coach Todd Monken stood before a dense sea of microphones, his expression a tight, unreadable mask as reporters pressed him on the rising hostility of the joint session. Monken, known for his relentless offensive standards and zero-tolerance stance on unnecessary distractions, refused to take the bait, publicly dismissing the chirping as standard summer competition. But behind closed doors, the messaging was sharp, direct, and uncompromising. NFL defenses smell blood in the water, and any sign of emotional instability or tactical fear will be exploited relentlessly until an offense forces them to respect the deep ball. For Shedeur Sanders, the joint practice clash served as a stark preview of the reality waiting for him in the pros. The hype machine, the celebrity endorsements, the famous family lineage, and the signature watch flex celebration have converted every snap of his rookie campaign into a prime-time spectacle. But that massive cultural footprint comes with an equally massive target. Every defensive coordinator, corner, and safety in the NFL views Shedeur not just as another opponent, but as a prized trophy, a high-profile target whose public humbling generates instant viral headlines. Gardner-Johnson's targeted onslaught was merely the opening salvo in what promises to be a season-long campaign of psychological intimidation as rival defenses line up to test the rookie's threshold for chaos, pressure, and relentless disrespect. Inside the Browns' locker room, the offense rallied around their young quarterback, while silently digesting the harsh lesson embedded in the day's session. Veteran teammates recognized that CJGJ's taunts hit home precisely because they touched on a real tactical weakness that requires immediate correction. Joint practices exist to expose those exact fractures before win-loss records are on the line, but they also act as a pressure cooker that forces a team to define its identity. As the Browns closed out the joint session, the internal directive was crystal clear. Shedeur Sanders can no longer afford to operate as a passive target under the league's brightest spotlight. He must embrace the target on his back and answer the chirping with explosive vertical authority. All of the psychological sparring, scouting tape critiques, and locker room drama now converge on a single, inescapable turning point: the preseason opener at Huntington Bank Field. The joint practice session was merely the prologue. Live game action represents the ultimate moment of truth, where narrative collapses and cold, undeniable performance takes over. As the stadium lights illuminate the lakefront and thousands of roaring fans pack the stands, Shedeur Sanders steps into an arena where every single eyes-on moment will be amplified to a global scale. The Bills' defense, fully briefed on Gardner-Johnson's sideline blueprint, will not present soft looks or passive coverage shells. They are coming to test the rookie's resolve, crowding the line of scrimmage, disguising blitz packages, and daring him to beat them over the top. This game day reckoning is more than just a typical preseason exhibition. It is an existential litmus test for Shedeur's trajectory in the National Football League. The Checkdown King moniker will hang in the air like a cloud until Shedeur actively rips it down with his own arm strength. To silence the skeptics, defy the viral taunts, and prove CJGJ's ultimate point that this was necessary tough love, Shedeur cannot simply manage the game, take safe options, and protect his personal stat sheet. He must display raw courage in the pocket, stand firm against closing pass rushers, and aggressively push the ball downfield into tight, high-stakes coverage windows. The stage is set, the spotlight is blinding, and the challenge is clearly drawn. Shedeur Sanders must seize this moment to rewrite his rookie story, transform relentless disrespect into explosive vindication, and demonstrate to the entire football world that he is built to dominate at the highest level.